All right, let's do that. Let's get the mining panel working your way up here. I'm going to introduce our good friend and also a sponsor for today's event, Jill Ford from Bitford Digital. Jill has been in the mining equipment broker business for quite a long time, and I'm going to turn it over to her and the rest of the panel. Let's see, who is on the panel? I think David Gamble, Jon Taylor, and oh, they're all over there. And Stephen Smith, guys, come on up. And here you go, Jill. It's all you.
Awesome. Well, I'm Jill Ford with Bitford Digital, and we help miners procure all of their equipment, anything from a cable to a transformer to a miner. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about Bitcoin mining with you guys today. All right, where's the rest of our panel? Come on up. Awesome. So do you guys want to take a moment just to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Stephen Smith. I'm the founder and CEO of Celestial Mining Management. We are a private mining vehicle with operations in Alabama and Texas, and a huge amount of opportunity.
Yeah. My name is David Gamble. I'm the head of institutional sales for Blockware Solutions. I'm actually raised right here in Tampa, Florida. So worked over at Raymond James Financial for about 5 years, traded packaged products, mutual fund products as a senior trader. Got into the global equities and investment banking side for a small bit as a settlement specialist, and transitioned over to a hedge fund, managed about 40 million AUM, all digital assets, all crypto investments, and currently at Johns Hopkins Carey School of Business. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. And Jon, who are you?
Jon Taylor from Bitcoin Mining World. I do the wild mining over at Bitcoin Mining World, which is oil and gas and solar. Focused really on oil and gas and working with operators throughout North Dakota, Oklahoma, Texas, and believe it or not, Michigan, which is a big place for oil and gas also. And I also do a little bit of media too.
Awesome. So let's just jump right into it, guys. So how can a pleb get started in Bitcoin mining?
There are many ways.
Well, what do you think? Well, tell us about the ways.
The first thing is the BitAxe is right there. You can learn all the basics of mining with some of the home devices that are available. And then when you're ready to have some a little bit more consistent power or better rates, you may work with Blockware to buy a miner or several. Those are generally the ways you do it. You got a lot of experimenters out there that like hobbyists and do things with heat and other aspects of utilizing mining for hobby and sometimes economic purposes. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
I think one of the best ways for just a regular Joe, just coming into the industry, you want to look for people like us, right? Companies like ours who have a track record, who've been around the space, but most importantly, who make it extremely frictionless and just accessible for you to start mining. Right, so you want to utilize our platforms. At Blockware, we have a great education platform, but we walk through a pro forma with you guys, handhold you guys through the process. You're working with top tier operators here, right? So we make it accessible for you to get that industrial power, and just get started mining.
I'm helping sponsor that BitAxe, so I'm going to, be an advocate for that. I think everyone should have a BitAxe. It's kind of, everybody's doing it now. It's all the rage. Whether you get a BitAxe or an Apollo, learn how to mine. You can attach to the pools. You can learn how the system works. You can get an idea of what hash rates are and difficulty and all those kinds of things. And that's how you really get started. And then as you graduate, work with trusted people who can help you get into that next step, whether it's buying 5 miners or 500 miners and getting into the Bitcoin mining business. It's a great time to be in the Bitcoin mining business.
Awesome. So the Bitcoin mining business can often be described as the Wild West because there's a lot of scams in our industry. So what are some ways that people can stay away from those scams and safeguard themselves?
Well, the way I like to put it is, if you're looking at this as a business opportunity or a real serious investment, you're going to pay tuition. There is a lot of information asymmetry in the business, so you coming in don't know very much, and we do. So it is very important who your counterparties are. And I think there's a lot. Avoiding scams. Basically, don't oversize your investment. Make sure you understand your models and the metrics that you're using to track performance, and be clear about your expectations with your partners.
Yeah, exactly. I think, one of the things that aren't really discussed is the communication aspect, right? So when one of the big red flags that you'll ever find in the mining space is lack of transparency, right? Whether it's an invoice or something that's you're putting an order in and you don't know if it's going to happen. You got to keep in mind that this industry is fairly nascent, right? And we're still in this real big point that we're starting to kind of catch fire, right? And working with a firm like Blockware or having somebody trusted like Jill or any of these guys here, it's going to be the biggest point for your success or for your failure, right? And there's countless ways that you can kind of make sure that you're kind of crossing those T's, but you want to make sure that you're working with again, a firm who has a track record, a firm who's been around the space since 2017 like ours, right? We've procured north of 400,000 plus rigs. We've placed well over 400 megawatts of power. Many of the pubco companies that you've heard of, we work with on a consistent basis. It's one of those things you want to have that communication layer really down packed.
I'm going to echo a little bit about what you said. When I first got into real estate, I want to tell a little story. I had a mentor, and he said, well, what are you going to do if someone pays rent late? Or what are you going to do when that mother with the kids, they're going to pay rent late? And I said, well, I want to be a good guy. I want to compromise my standards so that I can be a good person. He said, you know what? You'll be the amalgamation of those 10 tenants that you have. You're going to have all their bad habits amplified. You're going to have all their good habits amplified. So if you don't set standards for yourself, standards of the way that you want to do business, you're going to do business the way that everybody else wants you to. And that same thing applies in Bitcoin. When you are on Telegram and somebody's saying, hey, can you wire me $6 million for these miners that you're going to buy, and it doesn't feel right, don't do it. If you have standards, set those standards of how you want to do business. I want to see the person. I want to see their brick and mortar. I want to see them on Zoom. I want to verify who they are. Do all those things, and because you're new to the space, don't let them set the standards. You set your own standards so that you can be the business that you want to be.
Right, exactly. Some things that I always tell my clients is make sure you're always sending a wire transfer the first time. Make sure you're either meeting in person or Zoom. And even like Zoom, people can put AI photos over. So you have to be really careful. But the number one thing that I really think works is checking references. And don't just check references with someone that you see as a connection on LinkedIn. Like literally ask somebody in person that you've met at a conference. Is this a trusted person Because it's just so easy to get scammed, and it's so important to make sure that you're, taking all the proper steps. And sometimes that's going a little overboard and making sure that, the person is legit, but it's worth it to keep yourself from getting scammed. So, you want to go?
Oh.
You got something?
We could talk all day about the different ways that you can be scammed.
Oh, there's many.
And I think I had about 8 out of 12 of them happen, or may have, because you never quite know in some cases. When a manufacturer delays shipment of your items, are they mining on your gear, or did they ship them? or they're having manufacturing delays. You wouldn't know. You can't know. So there's a lot of things like that, and that's why I would caution people who may have some early success in buying a few machines and enjoying some profits from that, to be very careful about the idea that you might be able to scale that, because there are a lot of lessons to learn.
Oh, yeah.
I would also add, contracts. Get very good contracts, letters, letters of intent. Make sure that everything is detailed. There may be lawyers involved, especially if you're in six figures or beyond. Get lawyers involved so that there's a little more attachment. I think my personal experiences is Buy American. All the ASICs are made in China, but there is ASICs in America that you can get. You can buy them from a U.S. entity with a U.S. bank account, which is important. And keep it in here, because I don't know how they're getting them in. I don't know if they're smuggling them in or what they're doing. But these ASICs are getting here, so just keep it in the country.
Love it, love it. So my next question is, okay, besides the BitAxe, because we know anybody can buy a BitAxe, but what if I want to buy like an S21? Tell me how you can help me, calculate my power costs, my network, the network difficulty, and ROI timelines for a newbie. So I'm just getting started. So do you have how does your company help me basically be profitable?
I'll start. We have a calculator, so we build out every model that takes we're using AI to figure out what machines are going to work best. We give options, so you can do partially script, partially Bitcoin. Right now, it is all Bitcoin is great. What machines are going to work the best? It takes into the halving that's coming up in 2 years, 9 months. It also takes into difficulty and hash rate fluctuations that will happen with the price of Bitcoin going up and down. And it'll give you a good idea of your investment. We focus our investment is, if you put in $1 million, are you going to get $1 million back? Instead, we say if you put in $1 million, you're going to get 10 Bitcoin back or 11 Bitcoin. Here's what it's going to look like in 5 years. 5 years is a good target market for your ROI. And you can make the judgment based on quantile modeling or whatever that you use to say Bitcoin is going to be worth this much, or it's going to be worth this much, or somewhere in between.
Yeah, I guess so. I'll go next. At Blockware, we actually perfected this, right? And this is something that we take a lot of pride in, whether it's from our marketplace, which is the first marketplace peer-to-peer transaction where you're able to buy a mining rig, and you can literally do this right now at your seat. You'll be hashing before the end of this conference, right? So you own the hardware, you own, the energy contract itself. But one of the really cool things that we have and we can offer is that, we're able to actually, give you a deal score, also have you take a look at the profitability calculator. All those things are important, but, aside from that, again, right, I kind of go back to the hand-holding and the one-on-one that we provide with all of our clients. We don't shift and find other targets, right? We look and treat every person the same, whether you're buying one mining rig and you're just trying to get an S21, or you're buying thousands, right? We have thousands of mining rigs available on our marketplace today, and we do provide that pro forma, right? So we're able to share, hey, you're going to make 35.98% true number on an S21 Plus, right? And this is what it looks like. You'll be online and hashing within 48 hours. And it's something that it eliminates that friction, right? So to the point earlier with making sure that you're gonna have the security of knowing that your mining rigs are coming online and hashing. We eliminate that lead time, right? So we eliminate that lead time because we aggregate all of that hardware, and we provide that economies of scale pricing to our clients. Right, so on the pro forma aspect, we do that consistently. We're able to get as granular as you like, or keep it super baseline. Yeah.
There are a lot of mining calculators out there. I didn't trust any of them because I didn't build them myself. So I built my own calculators and spreadsheets, and now have a 135 column model that I've copy pasted many times. That's probably familiar to anybody who's played with mining. But what I would say is that you need to be mindful of your goals and expectations. And if you're looking for a higher return than Bitcoin, just know that that is actually what I would equate to the Olympics of business. It's an extremely difficult lift. And your pubco miners that can buy cheaper than you are not doing that. So I think that it's important to carefully size your investments and understand this is a learning thing when you're beginning. You know, if you have early good results, don't assume that you can just 6 months later double down or go times 10, because timing is actually very important in this market. And while now is a great time to do it, you have to be watching the prices, and eventually you can overpay for gear.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially if you're a newbie, you know, that's another scam. People can try to make you pay for things that are not what they're worth. So especially in the used equipment market. But this brings me to my next question, because you talked about public companies and how they're mining. So is mining still open to individuals, you think, or do you think it's becoming exclusively institutional?
Well, there are a lot of advantages to scale. Okay, you get volume pricing. You have better access to power contracts. You can exercise more control over your operations. So if you are really, really trying to generate returns, especially Bitcoin kind of returns on mining as an activity, you're going to want to eventually get some scale. And you may want to work with people who have scale that can help you with that. That said, I don't believe you need to be at pubco miner size in order to deliver very strong results. And everyone's situation, especially the pleb miners who are using mining in different situations and, you know, heating their greenhouses and what, they have different economics that they're looking at, and they don't necessarily, they're not looking at it in a pure financial return perspective on just the mining activity itself. So I think there's a whole spectrum of uses for mining, and it's kind of working its way into all these different corners of the world. So it really depends on you. Yeah.
Awesome. You guys have any comments about that?
Okay. Getting into the space, we do some work where we show our Bitcoin models, our Bitcoin mining models, and we compare them to the big companies. We have Riot and Foundry and everyone else up there. And they operate between 17 and 20, or low 20s on the joules per terahash as a company. If we make a small mine, we can definitely be below that, like in 15, 16, in those ranges. So the efficiency, that number, joules per terahash, is going to be better than the big companies. Where we can really take advantage is there's two ways. One, if you're a small manufacturer and you have a lot of power, but you're only using a little of it, you're paying way too much for it. So we can use all the power that you have, put Bitcoin miners on there. Your electric bill is probably going to be the same, but you're going to have Bitcoin. Might even be lower. That's a great way to do it. The other advantage is tax incentives. So let's say you have a business and you have profit coming in, and you're like, well, I've just remodeled my building, I've just done this, I've just done that, I'm running out of things to spend all my money on, rich people problems, right? What you can do is take that money and you can put it into Bitcoin mining. So you can write off the electrical. Right now there's 40% bonus depreciation on the machines, so you can get that tax write-off, so that tax benefit's great. If the bill goes through, there's going to be the 100% bonus depreciation. You can also take that mining money and put it into the Bitcoin and put it into self-funded IRAs, which will give you tax advantages until you're 59 and a half. Or you can put it into ROBs and other types of entities that will further your tax advantage. So it's not just making 10 Bitcoin, but you're making 10 Bitcoin, you're having the depreciation write-offs, you're having the tax advantages, and then you're sheltering your money in the best possible way for retirement.
Yeah. Yeah. To that point, right, I think there is a really big misconception that you actually have to have a huge, mega site to get started, or lay out an extremely large amount in CapEx just to get started, right? And what most people fail to realize is that in pubcos, they actually mine at a lot, at a different price than retailers. It's actually one of the most perfect times to get in, right? Your edge is that you are retail, right? You don't have the the capex that you have to deploy towards R&D. You don't have all this overhead as far as employment, salaries that you have to pay. These things all make a huge difference when you're mining Bitcoin, right? So for many cases, actually, retailers are actually mining at a lot more of a discounted price than many pubcos. On average, right now, to his point, 17 to 20 joules is about $100,000 Bitcoin, give or take, for some cases, just because they do have that overhead, right? So you as a retailer, as a pleb, so to speak, you're mining Bitcoin right now at about a $55,000 price, right? An extremely great price, discounted price relative to the spot price of Bitcoin, right? So taking advantage of these points and partnering with companies like ours to work and kind of scale and give yourself an opportunity to kind of to stack sats, right, is exactly the gap that we fill, right? We provide that. We allow for any person to get started, right? And you don't have to go through all the due diligence, and we do all the heavy lifting for you. Literally the full white glove service, the full boat, the management, the repair services, the technical services, the whole nine, right? So we do all of that for you.
Awesome. So my next question is, as a beginner scales up and let's say they have a few rigs at Blockware, when is the right time to maybe build their own site? Is there a point in time where it makes sense to build rather than to be with a hosting facility?
You know what? I think that, exactly what, kind of just opining on what I just shared, right? It's like there's so much that has to go into opportunity cost, because we are in this real big point in the cycle, right? So if your goal is to build out your site, hey, by all means, go for it, right? But you should also look at, it doesn't have to be binary, right? Keep in mind, there's only two ways to really get Bitcoin, right? You can buy it, you can mine it. There's nothing else, right? So you want to be strategic with the partners that you have. In the case that you feel like you want to start mining and put together your own site, it's like, hey, we can work with that as well. In very often cases, we actually do incubators, right? So essentially, you want to get cash flowing, Bitcoin cash flowing immediately, right? So we enable that. We say, hey, look, buy the hardware, we'll place them in our facility. Once you've gotten a hold of that greenfield project, once you've gotten energized, we can work with you to either send out the mining rigs or you'll see and utilize the platform that we have, which is something super important, right? And I think one of the things that people don't discuss is it's not always how you get in, it's how you get out.
Yeah.
Right? So, that marketplace that we have enables you to seek exit liquidity in the case that you are actually seeking to take advantage of, some of the upside that the miners actually have themselves, right? So it's something extremely important.
It really comes down to who do you want to be and what role do you want to play in this. If you, as I did, want to run a mining business and scale a large operation, you're going to go and build your own sites. There is a very good use case for what you're saying, because you may want to buy ASICs right today and you don't have the site built and you can put them somewhere. Those are great opportunities to work with partners. But in our case, we focus on sites 3 to 50 megawatts. We have half dozen or so of those, a couple of which are operating. and so it's on a kind of a different scale. But I crossed that Rubicon several years back, if you will.
Yeah, it gets addicting.
Yes.
Well, I sell Bitcoin mining sites. So the best time to get into it is now. Right? Absolutely. Always be closing, right? So in Bitcoin mining, I think the best thing to do, you talked earlier, it's the wild, wild west. And
Yes.
it is. And in the beginning, the pioneers went out, the prospectors, the DIYers, the people who put it together. They built these mines. They put the S9s in there. Now they have S19s in there, and they bootstrap the thing together, and they're not profitable. And right now the S19s are not profitable in most of these markets. So the best way to get into Bitcoin mining is to buy a site that already exists. We have about 30 sites between 0.5 megawatt to 3 megawatts, and then we have a number of sites that are from 5 to 200. There's the PPA is a pain in the ass to negotiate. So it's a year and a half out for that. So buy a PPA, buy a site, buy the infrastructure, make sure they have switchgear and transformers. We can get you S21s. Jill can get you S21s. We can slap them in the farm. You can be up and running in a couple of weeks. So the way to get into it, in my opinion, is to take advantage of some of these opportunities that are out there, the existing mines, and be that next step, be that next step in that pioneer generation.
Awesome.
If
Great
you buy a site from him, though, you are going to run it, and you have several of options out there to get contractors and various companies that are providing services. If you don't want to be an operator of a mining site, you want to work with someone like us, we have a raise out as well, but at size.
Awesome. So let's talk about the ASICs and the ASIC manufacturers. There's quite a few brands. So tell me your favorite and pros and cons maybe of each brand. I think it's really important, especially for plebs starting out, to know what brand to buy. They don't have a huge budget. So if they buy a machine from a manufacturer and it breaks constantly and their warranty isn't great, I think it'd be great to give some advice on your favorite brand and what you've had success with.
I've owned 3 different brands. I have been happiest with non-Bitmain equipment, but there are other reasons to look outside of Bitmain. They do offer sometimes the most attractive price performance, though, and so it's hard to beat. And I think everybody deals with them at some point or another. But I would wait in general to not buy the first version of, if there's a new model in the market from the top manufacturer, let's give it a few months.
Absolutely.
And see what you can learn about it. But I've been very happy with the micro BT gear. It's been very durable. Depends on where you're operating, but the heat tolerances are very good. And the other miners have been promising as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think, really, when you're looking at these mining rigs, in short, I'm much more prone to going towards immersion and hydro-based mining rigs. They just offer a lot more efficiency, durability, and I think that's just the next frontier, right? At a certain point, you can't really, change that much on the nanometer spectrum for these mining rigs. So the only other variable choice there is like the environment that it's in, right? So some of these mining rigs, although, they come from a generation of basically, putting things together and hacking. I mean, I've been mining now since 2018. I got my first megawatt then, and I had the Dragon Mints back then, right? So I've seen a ton of different mining rigs come through, but still, there's this underlier aspect where it's like, are you looking for liquidity as well, right? And if we're talking about a risk-adjusted return just on the mining rigs themselves, oftentimes you'll find that the traditional micro BT and Bitmain products are going to be and have the most liquidity aspect for you, right? Because I keep talking about it's not always how you get in, but it's how you can get out, right? So you want to be able to, adhere to people that are in this industry, and offer something to them that they would buy. If it came to the point where they want to take advantage of the huge price appreciation, the salvage values of those mining rigs, right? As an example, right, the last bull market, S19s were going for, we were able to buy them for $1,700. At the height of the market, they were selling for $15,000, right? Aside from that, you're also dollar cost averaging and mining on a consistent basis. Your costs are fixed, okay? So you have a dual asset exposure there. So you're not only taking advantage of the salvage value of those rigs, but you're also, seeing all of that return in Bitcoin, throughout that process. And then the question comes to like, well, how do I get out of these things if I want to? And what's marketable? What's marketable is the Bitmain products, micro BT products, and we offer a platform to be able to seek that exit liquidity as well. So yeah, micro
Awesome.
BT for me.
Thank you.
Agreed. I think the what's miner, you get into an M60 or you get into a Bitmain, which is the S21. I mean, everybody has them. Everybody knows how to take them apart. They're very easy. If you're going small, staying in that range is a good idea. If you're in 0.5 megawatt to a couple megawatts, stay small. Stay in the easy machines that everybody has because it's easy, it's safe. If you get into a larger mine, we're working on a project in Michigan, and we're using Canaan. And the reason we like them is because they are bending over backwards to do anything for us and make sure that these machines are up and running, that we have quick repair, quick replacement. They're an American-based company with American technology, intellectual property. So the ASICs are made overseas, but they're assembled in the US. So there's a lot of good things that are happening with those machines as far as made in the USA, assembled in the USA, and just having a company that's really going to back us up. Bitmain's so big that when you call them and say, hey, I want to give you $1 million, you don't always get a call back, right?
They're like, cool, we'll send you
Yeah.
an LOI.
Yeah, in a month or so, maybe, because you're not that big.
Yeah.
I will
yeah.
say Canon's been very good to work with you.
Yeah, they're good.
That's really good to hear. They've definitely made a comeback. So that's really exciting, actually. So talking about Plebs and ASICs, let's talk about repair. What kind of expectations would you give a newbie for a machine as far as maintenance and repair?
I'll jump in because you guys take care of all that, so you do it.
Yeah.
If you deal with these guys, you have no expectations because it's just going to be done. If you deal with us, we're going to give you training on how to do level 1 repairs. An ASIC machine it's pretty basic. There's ASIC boards, there's a power supply, a couple fans, not a lot to it. So if you have a couple of extras, with software you can see ASIC board 1's down, ASIC board 3's down, this fan's down. We can teach a whole fleet of people on how to repair that in about 30 minutes. That's easy. And then when you get them into repair, finding a great repair center is hard. We have a couple that are good, and they have bad days. ASIC repair is tough, especially if you're sending 5 machines out or you're sending 6 boards out or something like that. So in that sense, it's a little bit tough, but I know that you take care of all that, right?
Yeah, we do. We do everything, right? So the management, the pull services, the tech services, we give you a white glove product so that you can be as hands off as possible, right? So we have Bitmain certified technicians on site. We currently have about 50 megawatts over in Eastern Kentucky, West Virginia. We have a partnered site in Oklahoma, about 300 or so. We just did a recent announcement with a publicly traded company called Soluna. And one of the main, and we have 12 different data centers that we own 2 of them. One of the main things that we look for is quality control, due diligence, right? Making sure that these are top tier operators, right? And what's inclusive with that is making sure that you can go about your day to day and you'll receive communication from us and say, hey, look, your mining rig is down. There's a fan issue, there's whatnot. would you like us to move forward and get this done for you, right? So we are very well, we're very much aligned to make sure that the longevity of how you're mining, is there, right? So we provide all of those things for you and make sure you're up and hashing.
Yeah, in our investment vehicle, we handle all of that. So there's no exposure to individual miners or even individual sites. We are handling all of those concerns. No site or deployment is going to be perfect. You will have failure rates. There will be things to deal with. And sometimes you've got to make decisions like, is this batch of equipment what we want for the long run? Do we get it out? And then you have to deal with selling.
Which I can help you with.
Yes.
Yes. I work a lot in the used equipment marketplace, so I can definitely help with that. So my next question is, looking ahead, what emerging trends or tech should plebs be watching in the mining landscape? So Bitmain just came out with their new Hydro S23. So I'm really curious to see if that is something you guys think should be on the radar.
I do have a question. Like when you talk about plebs, especially, I think of the home mining beginning, beginning stage, and a lot of people at home don't have the electrical infrastructure to do some of these devices. I'm not even sure like a hydro unit would be something that someone would run at home, but probably you have some hydro.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, we give all of this, we give this access to you guys, right? And I think one of the things that you want to be paying attention to, again, is the change of environment for these mining rigs. I think the S23 hydros are perfect, but frankly, the cost side is a factor, right? So taking a look at maybe an S21 hydro, for instance, is going to be one of your best bets, right? Just because you get acquainted with what this technology does, the efficiency. There's a lot that kind of comes down to it. But for the regular pleb out there who wants to just get started mining, again, right? My whole thing is just get started. Start with one mining rig. You can do that very easily within marketplace.blockware-solutions.com. But again, right, you'll get a chance to really explore and see what this looks like, how this moves, what kind of expectations you should have on a repair aspect. All those things are important.
I agree. We have a facility in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, the hotbed of Bitcoin mining, right? And what he did is he took these old buildings, old bank buildings, and he turned them into like these little mining lab sites. And what he's using those fog hashing F200s. It's like a refrigerator, a big refrigerator, a big black box. It's a server case, and he's putting these brand new hydro miners in it. And it's a lab, and it's an experiment. I think that's the perfect place for those. I think for making money and making your business, if you want to get into it, you had the best idea. Stick with those S21s. They're tried, they're true, they work. All these new machines, this is a new space, and I would go to the experimental places and say, what kind of luck are you having with them? Are you even getting them? The answer to both of those is no. We're not getting them, and we don't know what they do. But when they do finally come out in 6 to 9 months, let them experiment. Let them kind of figure that stuff out, especially if you're new. Don't try to figure out how these new machines work and try to figure out how to do a Bitcoin mine. It's just too much to take on.
Awesome. So here's maybe the closing question I have for you guys. If you could leave pleb miners with one golden rule to guide them through their first year of mining, what would it be? Oh, I stumped him.
Golden rule. I would just use it as an educational year. Okay, it's really about learning how everything works and where you want to go with it. That would be my general advice. Is you treat it as a learning experience, and you're going to make some money.
Absolutely, that's really great.
Yeah, for me, it's get off of zero trust it, run the numbers and trust the process, right? We provide everything for you as far as making sure that you're gonna enjoy the experience. But ultimately, for that first year, the educational aspect is key. Like, you want to make sure you're getting educated, you're getting the best people around you that can help guide you towards this new landscape. Blockware education is a great tool to use, but you want to make sure you're getting off of zero. You want to run those numbers. You want to see if it makes sense for yourself, for your business. Oftentimes, you'll find that it does, right? The tax appreciation aspects, just a pure, Bitcoin treasury strategy that you can implement in any mom and pop business, really. So yeah, get off of zero, run the numbers, trust the process.
Awesome.
Get started. We do a Build a Mine boot camp, do this 2 or 3 times a year. People come back after being there last year, and half of them say, I got my Bitcoin mine going, and I'm happy. I'm making Bitcoin. The other half go, I didn't get into it. I wish I would have got into it. Those are the only 2 answers. So get into it, get started, make it happen. There's ways that you can turn on machines today. There's no way to not get started. You could win a BitX in the next couple hours, and your life could be changed. Who knows?
That's awesome. My advice would just to be, don't give up, because you will experience hurdles, and just take, like you said, just take the first year to really learn and grow, and meet people. Go to conferences and meet people. Go to mining conferences. That's super important. You're going to meet a lot of great people. So that's my advice. Thanks, guys.